Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode on Founders Tribe, a podcast production presented by thestartupchef.com. This is once again your host, Sven Milder, and like every week, I invite inspiring global movers and shakers to the show to casually chat about successful strategies they have deployed to found and build awesome businesses and live fulfilling lives. At the Startup Chef, we are on a mission to elevate and inspire 100,000 founders globally to help them shortcut their road to success by offering easy access to investment capital and world-class expertise. If you want to discover more or download one of our free resources that can help you propel your business forward, visit us at thestartupchef.com. Thestartupchef.com. Now, without further ado, let's jump straight into today's episode. Okay, guys, welcome to a new podcast of the Startup Chef. Today, I have with me good friend and as well entrepreneur Andrew Senduk, co-founder of previously Orami, Southeast Asia, first woman-focused e-commerce platform. A little bit more about him. He spent his first years in Indonesia and the majority of his life in Amsterdam. But the last years, he's one of us here in this area of the world. After selling his startup a few years ago, he moved to Jakarta with his wife and his two boys. He's on a mission to inspire a whole new generation to find the leader within. And that sounds for me super exciting, where we're going to talk about a little bit later. Millennials currently representing the largest share of today's workforce. And he believes that to make an impact, it's all about understanding this generation inside and outside and really trying to activate them towards greatness. Andrew is as well sought after a keynote speaker and an advisor to both startups and multinationals on a digital transformation. He has lived and worked across 3 continents, the Netherlands, South Africa, and Indonesia. And personally, I think his story is very inspiring and he shows both highs and lows of entrepreneurship. So a lot of things to learn about. Andrew, thank you very much today for joining us on the Startup Chef podcast. How are you doing, man?
Great, dude. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored, man. Honored to be in the Startup Chef community.
Yes, well, we of course hope to inspire everyone that is listening to us. And I think we can read a lot on the internet. We can see a lot of videos, but hearing it from the man himself that went through highs and lows. Can you tell me a little bit, what was your low and how did it move to a high? Let's straight on jump into it, man.
Well, I think the low in that sense was actually more like a low which I kind of forced up onto myself, which was resigning from a good job in the Netherlands. So going from a 6-figure salary to 0 was kind of like a low from a financial perspective.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was also a high. You know, I mean, we totally pivoted our lifestyle from wining and dining in the top restaurants of Amsterdam to going to the local markets and being really frugal with our money. But you know, starting this entrepreneurship journey in 2009, and and then a lot. So I think that would be like some kind of a low, but at the same time, it's also a high. And then, of course, since 2009 until now, there's a lot of highs and a lot of lows. Too many to pick one, but I think a pivotal moment was for me in 2009 when I left corporate banking.
Cool, man. So the thing that we both share in common, and that's also where we actually formally met, was running both a startup in Indonesia. In this case, it was Orami, very much with a gender lens focused on women. So how was it for you, you know, because I still remember with myself coming on with my suitcase and, you know, being suddenly in a city that I didn't know. How was that journey for you, starting up something from scratch in a country that is familiar through your background, but nonetheless, it requires a lot of stepping out of the comfort zone.
Yeah. So interesting enough, when I came to Indonesia, so I've been coming to Indonesia since I was a kid, right? And I used to live here actually when I was like 4 or something. From 4 until I was 7 years old, I used to live in Jakarta, and then been coming here my whole teenage years. And I know Jakarta, but at the same time, I don't really know Jakarta. So when I came here in 2013, I kind of had the idea that, you know, I'm I'm Indonesian, right? I mean, my parents are from here, so I kind of know, I know the network. But that was a bit of a disappointment, because I also experienced, like, after 6 months, like, I'm just another bule, you know. I'm just a foreigner. I'm actually a foreigner. I mean, I might have a different color of skin or different color hair, but at the same time, I'm just a foreigner here. So I really need to get into the network of the people that I wanna surround myself with. So it was kind of like a humbling experience for me as well. But at the same time, I think Indonesia, specifically Jakarta, is very much network based, right? So if you know the right people, then it's quote unquote easier to get to the right connections you eventually want to have. So yeah, so going back to answering that question, it was more difficult than I thought to get into the right network.
So we have discussed in a lot of informal meetings that we have, the businesses that you have encountered and the way how you hustled. What I think is extremely cool, and which is definitely a milestone, is that the last business you grow until 7 figures, right? Before you actually decided to leave the ship and focus on really supporting other CEOs on top level multinationals to become as awesome as what I think, and those are my words, how you always have operated the company. So, man, how the fuck do you do that, right? How do you bring a company in a country like Indonesia, which is very much rising, from something small to something big? And what is the journey and what is the lessons, man? Give us some juice.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, right? I coincidence is that yesterday I had the same discussion with one of my clients, and I think fundamentally it comes down to, without sounding too yoga-ish or too spiritual, but I really believe that this is a visualization kind of thing, right? What I mean with that is that one of my favorite quotes is that, you know, things are created twice, right? One is in your mind and the other one is in reality, and that maybe sounds a bit abstract. But I really believe that you know, planting certain seeds in your mind eventually will create a certain belief system as well. And with that belief system, you take certain actions. And because of certain actions you take, there's certain results. When we came to Indonesia, I mean, we had nothing, right? I mean, didn't have a job offer. There was nothing there. I mean, we just came there and tried to hustle. And we saw after 6 months, like, oh man, this is not really working. But through the hustle and through the networking, eventually I got in touch with some VCs, and then you know, from one contact came the other, and then it was like, hey guys, we want to launch this e-commerce company. Do you want to do it? And then I started from scratch. But if we just rewind everything, right, from the moment I came in, I really came in to Indonesia with the idea of building like a multi-million dollar company. I don't know how, I don't know what golden path there is to do that, but I really had that idea that I would be doing that. And you know, eventually we went from nothing to $4 million a month, you know. And that's, by the way, there was Indonesia and Thailand together, right? But still, yeah, it was pretty interesting journey. But at the end of the day, I think it's also timing, right? I mean, back then the investment timing was pretty good, and then, you know, we raised money, and then, you know, went from A to B, and et cetera. But yeah, we also experienced the not so good times when it comes to fundraising as well, right? So, and that's, I think everyone in the game goes through those different seasons, right? But yeah, I would say that's really important element.
So I love what you're saying with everything is created twice. I want to dive a little bit deeper on that specific concept, right? So if I understand it very well, is that we need to envision where we want to go.
Yeah.
And the more clear we are painting that picture in our mind, the easier, just like driving a car in the dark, and you move and you look very much ahead of you, you're driving, you're going into the right direction. So how far are you going with this visualization? Question number one. Yeah. And how realistic is that? Question number two. And how do you implement that currently still in your life?
Yeah. So how far do I go? That I go as far as when I look at my life, right? And this is a topic which I'm pretty excited about, because
let's do it.
because when you just look around you, right? How many people actually have a proper goal or a proper vision for their life? I think that the majority has not, because they live maybe from day to day, or they've never thought about it, or they make more time to make a grocery list than a list for their life. You know what I mean? So how far do I take this? I look at my life and I cut it into a few different pieces, right? Where I say like, okay, health and fitness is one. I look at my finances. I look at my career. I look at my marriage. I look at my parenting. I look at my living environment. So there's like different topics, right, of your life. And I write down how I would like that to be, like literally, like how would I like my relationship to be, or how would I like my fatherhood to be, like what kind of kids do I want to raise, and what kind of environment do I want to live, and I just write that down as a story. Like, okay, it's gonna be. I'm telling you, man. Like we just built a house, and this house, it is what we envisioned it to be, and that is again. It really is like that, man, because once we create that world within our minds, then due to the actions that you take, you're going to go towards that result. And I always like to compare it with going to a restaurant, right? When you go to a restaurant, you don't say to the waiter like, I'm hungry, and then the waiter is going to say like, what do you want to eat, right? And then you'll say like, no, I don't know, I'm just hungry, just give me something. No, you go there and you'll say, okay, I want to have the fried rice with chicken, or the satay with some shrimp, whatever it is. Be specific. So what if we take that to a more macro level and we ask ourselves, like, what do we want in this life? Like, what impact do we want to have in this life? What legacy do you want to leave behind? Or, what is it that you want to do with the skills that you have? So yeah, I take that quite serious.
You review that daily. Well,
I don't review daily, but me and my wife, we kind of have a document together where we define actually like these goals together, right? Which I think is crucial. It's crucial to have, especially when you're together with your husband or with your wife, to be aligned on where you're going.
So we could say, Mila, you're right. Yeah, it sounds very cliche, but you're writing your own story. You're the director of your own life.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean it always the result is always there. It doesn't mean that, right? But it means that at least there's a proper direction of where you want to go. And I think that's coming back to, okay, is the destination, is that it, or is it the journey towards the destination? I believe it's the latter, right? Yeah. But then to do that again, I mean, Gary Vee always is talking about like reverse engineer, which I also believe we need to reverse engineer from that.
Absolutely.
Right. And when you look at it from a biological perspective, and we think about what happens in your brain, when you think about imagination, when you think about, for giving the example of a car, for example, right? If you would really visualize and imagine that dream car that you want to have, of course, certain hormones will come free, certain neurons will come free, and things happen in your body. But if you really start to visualize and imagine that on a day-to-day basis, the experience your body will go through is actually the same as if that car is there. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's powerful, man. That's powerful. But then you go into the whole like epigenetics type of topic, which I think is pretty amazing. Which shows you the power of thought, the power of mind. And everything we do starts there. Everything we do starts there. The only reason now we're going through this new type of businesses, where we both come from a startup background, and now we're doing like this whole different type of business. It's because we saw something which inspired us, which made us think. And from there on, you start to create this whole new reality. Right. And
I guess also when you say that you're writing your dreams, or when you really start visualizing what you really want, and you cluster that in each area of your life, then perhaps I guess you also will find out that you think like, oh shit, I'm sitting on the wrong bike currently, and I need to adjust that, right?
Exactly.
The one thing that I was thinking while you were sharing this with us is like, is there some kind of philosophy that helps you to really be even better in the visualization? So I was, for example, thinking about Stoicism, right? Marcus Aurelius also uses a lot of visualization, and what he's doing, and I'm currently practicing myself, and that's why I'm very curious how you are doing that. It's like, let's see what can go wrong in our mind, right? So if we have that, we painted really that picture where we want to go, that's awesome. But it seems that if you're using the Stoicism philosophy, you put that on top of it, you find out actually, okay, what are the things that potentially can go wrong? And you already start to solve them in your mind. And therefore, once you encounter them, you just drive flawlessly to them. So how do you see that, bro?
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of similar, right? Because I love this thing about what can go wrong, right? Or I always say, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Because oftentimes we are stopped. We're stopped in our thinking or in our actions because of certain fears that might happen, right? Or certain things that might happen. And this is an exercise that Tim Ferriss talked about, who's actually also a pretty big fan of Stoicism, where he talked about your let's say fear list, right? So like listing down your fears, just really writing down your fears. Maybe your fear of starting a business, or your fear of going to a country, or your fear of whatever fear it is. And then actually just writing down those fears. And then I think the next column would be like, okay, what is the impact if that really would happen? And what can you do to solve that fear? So actually very practical way of containing the fear and looking at the fear and saying, oh, actually it's not that bad. So for example, when I resigned from my job, which was pretty intense, right? I mean, I was 27, I had a house, I had a mortgage, and it was pretty big choice for myself. I did the same, right? Where I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to quit my job now. I have a mortgage, like €1,000 per month, like hitting my bank account, not having any income. Okay, so what is the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that happen is that I need to apply for a job again after a year, for example. And I think the moment that when we define certain fears or certain potential worries, and we look at how to solve them, then I think life makes it a bit more easier. I think more clear. Because I think oftentimes it's because of the blur, we don't take any action. Yeah. In a positive way and a negative way as well.
So should people make this part of their morning journaling or their night journaling?
Well, I think for everyone it's different, but I think they should definitely make it part of their day, to visualize. And then, I mean, for me, it's also not that super, I don't know, special, like an hour of visualization. It's not like that. I mean, I pray in the morning, and then after praying, I think about the day, I visualize the day. And then there's some things, some projects are in my mind I think about, and I think about how that would be if it succeeds. Yeah. So just, it could be like a 5 to 10 minutes session with yourself to get clear.
I think it's funny that you're saying, because we are pretty much on the same page with that. It's only 5 minutes or 10 minutes that you are having these exercises with yourself. I mean, the results that you are harvesting from that are already insane for 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then can you imagine if you really put that more like in a broader perspective and you do it for an hour? I was reading one of the books, I don't know, I forgot what book it will be, but I will add it into the show notes later on. And then you need to write down all of the things that indeed you're fearful for, or all of the things what you potentially can do to reach a goal, right? And what will happen in the first 30 seconds, your brain starts like a machine gun, puts all of these mini steps how you can achieve what you want to achieve. But what we normally do as people is we put the book aside because we think like, oh, this is it. But what is really interesting, man, is that if you write those 10 things that are necessary, what your brain believes in order to achieve your goal, if you wait and you really stare to the paper and you think about other things and other things and other things, though your mind is actually blocking you to go there, that's where really even better things start coming out, right? So I think the message also here is like the more we are inclined to keep on pushing it, the more foods that will bring. So I would like to bring this back to your current engagement, where you are helping top CEOs in Southeast Asia to be awesome. And before we actually were starting the cast today, we said like, okay, you really enjoy to see that if you are working with your clients and they come in on moment A, let's say last year, January, and you're reviewing currently not their performance, but more like their personal growth, right? Do you also use for them the visualization inside of the current practices or what are your nitty-gritty details so you can really bring people on top of their level? I mean, perhaps you share something with that.
Yeah, I think it's everything, man. Like I have this program which I call the CEO Blueprint, and that is kind of like an audit file of all the key elements that CEOs need to look at while they're building their company. And the thing which surprised me, right? Like even though like I have clients that are doing, I don't know, $1 million a year, $10 million a year, $50 million a year. I had a session with one of the CTOs of one of the big tech companies in Jakarta as well. And the interesting thing is, from the outside, you think that people in those positions, that are running multi-million-dollar businesses or that have high positions, they have it all figured out. That's oftentimes the assumption, right? Because they're successful from the outside. But the moment you go inside, and it's interesting because we've both been there, right? We've both been on that inside. And to be very honest, on that inside, on that top position, it's not so glorious at all. And oftentimes when you are in that position and you do like $15 million a year, like it's also like buffling. Like next year we grow 30%, the year after we grow another 30%, and you're almost in that treadmill, right? And so I really try to coach like CEOs like on a much more holistic perspective, where on one side we got the CEO Blueprint, which is partly really business focused, but also on the other side it's really like life focused. I mean, visualization is something that you can do for your business, but then again, life is not only about the top line or the GMV or the revenue or the fundraising that you do. I think life is so much more. And is it worth it to neglect your family? Is it worth it to neglect certain relationships because of the thing that you're building? And I think that's, especially this younger generation, is I think a bit more aware of, where a lot of the guys that I coach are mid 30s or begin 30s. So they also have families, right? And they also and I think maybe the generation before is like, oh, I'm just going to go working, and then I'll see my kids when they're like 18, 19 or something. But now they want more, right? They want more as a leader. So I help them on that aspect as well. And visualization is definitely part of the teaching.
So what do you think that the CEOs that you're currently coaching, what is their current fuel? And what do I mean with fuel? What do you see is their real motivation to get them going, right? Because especially if they are in a multi-million-dollar business, there comes pressure. There's a chance that the work-life balance, I hate that word, but I mean, I just trying to say actually that it could be that their relationship with their children and wives is getting a little bit more ignored, or their friends, right? What do you see is currently really the motivation that keeps those guys moving?
Yeah.
And is that really sincere?
That is a good question, right? Because at the end of the day, there's always power in the rupiah or in the dollar or in whatever currency you're doing your business in. So this whole financial element, or not get rich quick, but for sure some monetary compensation for what they're doing is of course always a thing, right? Where they say like, oh, we want to make sure that our family is going to be sought after. When I do this business or we sell this business or we get acquired or whatever it is, that I have enough cash to take care of my family. That is for sure one of the elements. But I think a close second is definitely when we're talking about like impact, right? It's not so much, oh, I want to get rich, but more and more I see leadership now really saying like, okay, how can I really impact this country? How can I really impact Indonesia? Just lifting up people to the next level, right? And I think that is so interesting, right? When you compare that to the traditional leadership style, which is like almost use and abuse, right? We just use people as an asset, literally, like as a factory. But you see now much more that leadership wants to really evolve the leadership below and really let them grow into their full potential. So that's something which I definitely see, and which is one of the values that is now getting more important as well.
So I was talking in one of I think like 2 podcasts back. You know him as well, Florian Holm. former CEO of Lazada, is now making his own new startup in the property tech startup in the maker space. And we were talking about incremental innovation. And incremental innovation means very easily translated. It means like, okay, do people still innovate enough in their current enterprises or ventures? Or and do they really have a true impact on what they're doing? Or are they literally just thinking like, okay, this is cool, this is hip, this is startup, this, and they're just building something else that everybody is already building, you know? So what is your take on that?
Well, it's interesting. I recently spoke for a Big Four company in Jakarta, and we had the same discussion. Especially when we talk about Big Four. I mean, I come from the Big Four, started my career there, and
Accenture,
those guys, right? And very traditional service business, right? In that sense, accountancy and how are these monster companies evolving? I think it's one of the key aspects that they're also prioritizing now. Is like, how can we embed innovation in this business? And I think incremental, I mean, apart from the shiny, let's do some startup-ish stuff inside, I think I think Deloitte is doing a lot of good stuff, and KPMG is doing a lot of interesting stuff as well, Accenture, to really evolve on the tech side. But yeah, man, I think incremental innovation is, I think, is crucial, man.
Meaningful things. So one of the elements that I truly admire you for, and I really want to have this inside of the podcast, because I'm a personal believer that you do awesome in this space. And now you're thinking like, what the fuck is this dude going to talk about? But I think your role as a husband and a father, you know, and the way you have your family life. I mean, always, you know, when I jump by or when I hear a little bit more about it, this is something that I'm thinking like, wow, this dude has really smashed that, right? Happy family pictures, being extremely long with your wife. What is the we were talking about the CEO blueprint, right? What is the marriage blueprint compared also while running a business, man? I think, because that's a super important element when you're running your business, to have a very healthy relationship with your children and with your wife. And the way you do that, I think it's chapeau, man. So I would love you to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. No, good point, man. I mean, even in Jakarta, you know, I mean, I brought Mel into the company when Zion, my youngest, was 10 weeks old. So Mel started working, which was pretty intense as well. You know, young startup, we're both grinding, and but we've been working together for like 10 years, right? So we've always been working together. Before we had our fashion label together, and then, you know, we did a lot of stuff together. But I think at the end of the day, what really comes down to being on the same page of what we're doing in life. And, you know, I always say that your values determine your priorities, right? It means how you spend your day, what you look at, what you listen to. And if your values with your spouse, with your husband or with your wife or friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, if your values are aligned, I think that really can amplify your relationships on all different aspects, right? As long as the values are aligned and your communication is full on, then that's a pretty solid foundation. But then again, I mean, don't always believe what happens on Instagram or social media, right? I never post pictures when I scold my kids or when I have a fight with my wife. But that also happens, of course. But yeah, I think definitely like values, like aligning in values is extremely important, because when you align in values, you kind of align your future as well, right? Because you say, this is important for me, or this is important for us. So if this is important for us, then we should go there. And communication, man, like at the end of the day, husband and wife, men and women, we're from different planets. So communication is different. So we need to be very sensitive about interpreting, yes, can you do that? Or interpreting no, I'm not mad. And really reading in between the lines, right? But so I would say those two things are important, man. And always invest, you know, marriage is in that sense the same as any type of startups, right? If we don't invest, if we don't nourish, then yeah, we'll never get a 10x multiplier from that or a 10x exit. We just need to keep on putting oil on the fire, you know, and keep it going. And yeah, keep.
Do you have some moments in a month or in a week that you stay loyal to together to keep all of those things in tune?
Every Friday, man. Every Friday we have our date night, which now is a date night in the living room and playing a game. But yeah, just a moment to check in, man. I mean, especially nowadays with homeschooling and stuff, like 2 boys at home, homeschooling, it's intense, bro. I can tell you, it's super, super intense, which also puts pressure on us. But yeah, we need to, again, right? You keep important what's important. So we really take, every week we take a Friday, few hours, you know, in the week that we're just the 2 of us and we just chat and just have a bit of fun together. So yeah, man. And it's easy, right, for those things to become secondary. Yeah.
Awesome. So meanwhile, I open up a file while we're doing some research about you and the awesome things that you are currently, you know, enterprising on. We saw like, okay, the 7 characteristics of growth mindset leaders. So what I would like to do here, and I'm sure they are very familiar for you, the seven characteristics of growth mindset leaders. I just want to read your because they are yours, and I would like to have some additional feedback on that, right? So you shared like 7 characteristics of growth mindset leaders. The number 1 is you embrace discomfort and are willing to go further than your comfort zone because you know growth is there. Yeah. Entrepreneurs live in a constant state of discomfort. Give me some feedback.
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, like it's really like when I was in banking, man, like life was really good. I tell you, life was so good that a lot of people, including my director, told me like, dude, man, you're crazy, right? This 2009 financial market crisis. What are you doing? People are glad that they have a job. But I don't know, man. Something in me really said like, you know what? Life is short, and I know that. I mean, both my parents passed away, right? And very short amount of time as well. And life should be lived to our full potential. You know what I mean? And if we don't do that, that's a waste of gifts and talent that God put into our lives. You know, so it's like we need to use what we've been given. So I think that definitely for me that is the big example. Like to be really on the uneasy side, to go from easy to uneasy. And the thing is that because you're uneasy, you start to develop and evolve like so differently than if I would still be in banking, for example. Like it's a totally different human being that I am now versus if I would still be in corporate.
So are you currently in a phase where you feel uneasy?
I'm uneasy every day, man.
Yeah.
I mean, again, right? It's not that that we have like every month there's like a fixed income coming in, right? I mean, even now, I mean, I told you like the villas is also like it's crazy, right? COVID and then prices drop, so we need to. It's always like we're always on a hustle. We're trying to figure things out. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, especially now with COVID, a lot of uneasy moments. I can tell you.
Yeah. I love it, man. I have never been so productive during this time.
I can imagine.
Okay, so we have number 2. So you're not too proud to accept feedback from anyone. Feedback is a tool for improvement. Once you embrace that idea that learning from others and seeking help is a sign of strength, your potential for growth is unlimited. Man, it sounds almost poetic. Beautiful.
Yeah, well, I think it's this, right? I mean, Steve Jobs said it very, very, very well, where he said, like, you know, I don't hire people to tell them what to do. I hire people so they can tell me what they're going to do. Yeah. And I think that's also one of the things, man, that as in leadership, and especially when you run a business, when you're the CEO or the MD, of course, you're oftentimes, because of your role, expected to know everything. But I think it takes humility to know that you don't know everything. Yeah. And it's also good.
Admit that.
Yeah, and admit that. And it's fine to not know everything. And there's a lot of people who are much better in certain things than you. So I think as CEO, I think that is actually where the magic is. If you can find the right people to do the things that you cannot do much better, and you focus on the things that you can do and want to do. So at least the whole group is going to elevate if you put people in the right space, right? Like Albert Einstein said, like if you expect a fish to climb a tree, for example, then it would think all its life that it's stupid, right? That's not the exact proverb sentence, by the way, but it comes down to that.
Yeah.
You need to put fish in the sea, and a monkey we can put in a tree. You know, he can climb up. And I see that, man. I think old school leadership is very much like that. Okay, you're a fish. It doesn't matter. Just climb the tree. You can't do it, so you're stupid. You're out.
Yeah.
And isn't it beautiful, man? That if you have an organization, you have people, and you put people in the right place, and then suddenly you see these people evolve into like leaders. And I think that is one of the most satisfactory experiences that I've had in Indonesia, where I saw people like really blossom, man. Like. Yeah.
I was reading the same in a book which I still love, is the E-Myth, Entrepreneur E-Myth.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have read it as well. If somebody hasn't, they should. And one of the key things they mentioned there was you should have a regular checkup with your people, and they should only do what is their true passion and their true top skill. Yeah. And everything else, get it from their plate. And that's the way how you become a rocket. Rocket up a company.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing.
So also valuing your time. I want to go a bit forward with it relatively fast. So when you fall, you get up easily. You learn from mistakes and you use it to perform better in the future. Yeah. Andrew, feedback on that.
Yeah. So even at this moment now, in this time now, I sometimes still have, when things don't work out or I fail in certain things, I sometimes get caught up in the failure itself. I'm like, oh shit, like why did that happen? Like, you start to doubt yourself, and I think it's really like a day-to-day learning to just extract the things you can learn from what you experienced and use that to move further to make you stronger. But that's it's really a personal battle that you need to strengthen that muscle of getting up, right? I mean, it's always easy to say like, oh yeah, you fall like 8 times, but you get up 9. Yeah, of course, that's nice on a piece of paper. But to really go through failures or disappointments and just get up, really get up, like mentally get up, not physically, just mentally get up. It's a learning, it's a lifetime learning. I think to strengthen that muscle, to really how do you call that, like. When you get punched in your face, right? Like how fast can you recover from that? That is really the thing. And I think a big part of entrepreneurship is that, right? Where it's that when people are agile, so to say, it's like really like, okay, that didn't work. Okay, so we'll try something else. And you need to be fast with that and not too much hanging in the, oh, that didn't work. Oh, why didn't it work? Oh, maybe it's me or whatever it is, so just getting up.
I think here it's very important that what our parents have actually taught us about what are the labels in life, what we knew when we were young, and how do we through what lens are we typically viewing that world? Right? Because I personally believe that as soon as you can acknowledge that failure is the fastest road to success, then you're on the right track, right? I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because at the end of the day, like I have a concept which I teach, which is the success pyramid, right? And the success pyramid is really fundamentally comes down on these experiences that everyone goes through. Experiences when they were a child and when they become teenagers and maybe in relationships or whatever. And all these experiences, they are the foundation for all the belief systems that you have. Whether it's a belief system about money, about being independent, about relationships, about men, about women, or business. And then those belief systems are the foundation for all the actions that you take. And of course, those actions will create a certain result. Crucial element is really between the foundational experience and the belief system. So we need to be extremely intentional because people can experience actually the same thing. We're both standing in the rain, but the belief system that person A will create could be 180 degrees different than person B. And I think that's something that we need to be extremely intentional about on a day-to-day basis. Because, that's fundamental.
I think this is really the topic of the conversation that I'm really enjoying that we are having today. Is like it's all about intentional, right? We started with visualization, intentional, right? Truly awesome. So Andrew, where can people find you if they would like to engage with you more, right? What is the road that leads to Mr. Senduk and all of his greatness?
Oh, they can find me on andrewsenduk.com, Andrew Senduk, SENDUK.com, or find me on Instagram at andrew.senduk. And the same is for LinkedIn, Andrew Senduk. That's where I'm at.
Cool. You have organized some of the handles perfectly. Nevertheless, we will also put that into the show notes. One of the things that I truly always like to do is one thing is that you are giving away a free coaching call, which means that I cannot direct that, but if you believe that you are a CEO who runs $1 million business and really would like to bring things to the next level of growth, then I would strongly recommend you all to go to one of the social handles that we are happy to share, and Andrew will provide a free call. And just like we're talking here for a little bit more than, let's say, 40 minutes, you see 40 minutes can already give a lot of inspiration there. I like to really close this podcast, and I do this always. It's like, okay, what is for you that epiphany moment in life? What was that aha moment where everything suddenly, ka-ching, starts making sense? And what's the lesson that you can give to our audience?
Oh man, the pivotal moment is really for me that understanding that life is really short, and that sounds pretty dramatic, but that's really I think when you see death kind of like up close and personal, then you start to look at life different, and because of that, I look at my life as in what can I do with the gifts and talents that I have that can elevate this world we live in right now. And whether it's on a micro scale or a macro scale, I think we are, at the end of the day, we are not here to just become rich or something. That's not the goal of
life. Be the goal. Cannot be the
goal. No. So what is in your hand right now? It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's small. What is in your hand right now, and how can you make an impact into this world? I think that's what we're here for, and that would be definitely my takeaway.
Man, without a bullshit, and this is very. I'm getting goosebumps if you're saying that, because it's a beautiful way to actually literally close the podcast and give such an enormous inspiration to everyone. And I always like you as a friend, as the way you do business, the way you approach everything with full energy. I'm very thankful to have you here. Only it's maybe for another 45 minutes. If people are getting completely crazy that we want to see more from Andrew, 100% that we're going to do follow-ups with that. I truly appreciate your time, buddy. It was 45 minutes very well spent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
I talk to you soon.
Thanks, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for tuning in today at the Founders Tribe podcast. I truly hope you have found some inspiration and the golden nuggets so you can leverage this to lift your founders game. By the way, if you want to stay updated about our weekly releases, then please hit the subscribe button so you will never ever need to miss out and choose which one of the guests you can tune into. If you're planning to raise capital for your startup and would love to discover if you are fundraise ready, if your startup has what it takes, then please take our free signature fundraise quiz, where we will benchmark your answers against our 9-step Date Your Investor framework. As a result, you will receive a 20-page tailor-made recommendation report to be better tomorrow. Want to find out more? Go to www.thestartupchef.com, www.thestartupchef.com. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode.